Not going to call upon employees to make additional contributions. We're not going to change the retirement age. We do feel that local school districts and community colleges and universities ought to assume the responsibility to make the pension payments for their employees. Today, the state of Illinois makes those payments, and it's not fair, it's not equitable. It's one of the leading causes of why these systems have fiscal instability. So we've made good progress, but there's a long way to go.
So how much, if you just restrict it to the COLA, you don't do the increase in the employee contributions that Governor Quinn was suggesting, you don't do the change in the retirement age that Governor Quinn was suggesting. He said if you did all three things, you would get $65 to $85 billion in savings. Now you're doing one. How much do you get in savings?
I don't have the exact number. In all likelihood, it's somewhat less than what the governor cited, but it's a very significant number.
You're watching Public Affairs. Berkowitz is my name, and politics is our game. And we will be doing lots of politics and public policy this evening because we have as our guest Henry Bair, who's the executive director of AFSCME. That he has been in that position for now almost 4 decades, right, Henry?
That's correct. Well, with AFSCME that long, yes.
So you've been organizing, you've been overseeing unions, you've been arguing for the working people, as we say, 4 decades. And Illinois is facing this major issue of pension reform. We're taping this 9 days before the session is due to end, the General Assembly. Because we're taping it on May 22nd, supposed to end on the 31st. So let me ask you, Governor Pat Quinn, longtime Democrat, probably lifelong Democrat, has proposed that the state employees increase their required employee contributions to pensions from about 9% to 12%. He's proposed increasing the minimum retirement age from either 55 or 62, depending on how you look at it, to 67. He's proposed essentially knocking out the COLA or substantially reducing the cost of living index. Rahm Emanuel, lifelong Democrat, solid credentials, mayor of the city of Chicago, worked for a long time for Bill Clinton, congressman, worked for Barack Obama. He says the city pensions have to be modified substantially, in a way perhaps quite similar to what Governor Pat Quinn is addressing. Senate President John Cullerton, he hasn't said he's adopted or agrees with Pat Quinn completely, but he certainly is putting forth proposals that seem to ask for givebacks from the public sector unions. Okay, same with Speaker Mike Madigan. Nobody questions the Democratic credentials or their support of those people. Madigan, Quinn, Cullerton, Emanuel, support of unions, support of working people. Is it time, Mr. Bair, is it time for you to say maybe you should have substantial compromise?
Well, I don't agree that no one questions them. We question them very strongly. In fact, when Mayor Emanuel ran for mayor, we didn't support him. There were a number of reasons, but including his stated position that he wanted to make substantial cuts in the pensions of city employees. We have been at odds with the governor. I mean, the plan that the governor has put forth is totally unacceptable to a union. It's unfair to our members. We believe it's unconstitutional. And we have been part of a broad coalition of unions representing teachers, firefighters, and police officers, as well as our own members, broad coalition which has stood in strong opposition to what they are trying to do. And I think it's important to step back and to understand how the state got into this position, because I think a lot of people don't realize that every public employee who participates in a state-funded pension plan pays a portion of their salary. Every paycheck goes directly to the pension plan. That is supposed to be supplemented by what the state puts in. But what has happened over the years, rather than making their pension payments, the state has used the dollars they had available for other purposes. And they've built up this tremendous unfunded liability. In this case, as far as the state is concerned, $86 billion. That's $86 billion that they owe.
Excuse me, that's billion with a B. $86 billion, not million.
That they owe, that the state owes to its active and retired state and university employees and teachers. That's what they owe. That's what the figures show. And it's and also people have to understand, it's not because these pensions are overly generous. The average state employee has a $24,000 pension that they have paid into. For university and teachers, those pensions are higher. I think the average is around $40,000 in the case of teachers, a little less than that for university. But those people get no Social Security. The state doesn't pay, nor do local school boards pay any Social Security on their behalf. The only retirement income these folks have is their pension, and which they have faithfully paid into, but which the state hasn't.
But many people many people outside the public sector get only Social Security. Many of those folks don't have private pensions, and for many, their pensions from Social Security are less than the $24,000 you're talking about. So can you ask
Well,
those
they pay-
folks to pay higher taxes
Well, they-
to support higher pensions than they're getting?
Well, they pay. They pay in the case of people who are not on Social Security, teachers and university employees. They pay a higher proportion of their salary into the pension plan than people who are covered by Social Security do.
Nope.
So they already paying more. I mean, and the answer is, I understand there are a lot of people in the private sector who don't have pensions. We believe they should. We believe that every worker in this country, whether they work in the private sector or the public sector, ought to have a decent pension, ought to have retirement security. And there was a time.
Why don't they have pensions?
Well, why don't they
those
have
private,
pensions?
why those private people
Because
who don't have pensions? Why don't they?
what we've had in the last 30 years is a tremendous shift in the distribution of income in this country. What's happened is corporations, which used to provide defined pension benefits, 80% of the people in the private sector 30 years ago had a defined pension benefit. Now 20% do. And the reason is these companies have decided, rather than share the productivity increases of their employees with those employees, are keeping it for themselves and for their stockholders. And that's why we've had a growing inequality of income here in this country, and pensions are part of that.
But isn't it the case that for a number of individuals who had pensions, the companies went under, the companies went bankrupt, and as a part of that restructuring, they lost their pension rights, and they've had to adjust. People would say that's unfair, and now people are saying, since private sector employees had to adjust, why shouldn't government employees also adjust?
Well, that's like saying that if somebody went bankrupt, why don't we all go bankrupt? Well, first of all, I think you're wrong, because in the private sector, if there's a pension guarantee board, and the private, and the law requires the employers to keep a certain level of funding, and if they don't, the pensions are guaranteed up to a certain level, are guaranteed by the Ty Fainer, who's from the Civic Committee of the Commercial Club of Chicago. He said this himself. He said if anybody in the private sector did what these politicians did, then someone would go to jail.
But
someone would have gone to jail.
Right, but Ty would probably agree, and you're right, he is the president of the Civic Committee of the Commercial Club of Chicago. We'll come back to that. But Ty would probably agree that a number of these private people did go to jail. That is, they did things, and the private employees, you're right, there is a pension benefit guarantee corporation, but as you said, a guarantee is only up to a certain level. So many of those private individuals, that is, many of those employees working for private companies, have had to adjust. They didn't get the pensions they anticipated, and again, the question comes back to you, is it time for the public sector employees to adjust?
I think it's time for the private sector companies to adjust. I don't believe, the average CEO makes 340 times what the average worker makes. I don't think the governor should make 340 times what a state employee makes. Do you? Do you think that people ought to have $10 and $15 million salaries as a governor?
I don't think so. Isn't it what the market decides?
No, it's not the market. It's what they decide.
We have a free market. Don't you have a free market?
We have CEOs who pick. Look, we have CEOs who pick their board of directors. That if the stockholders come to a meeting and make a motion, and the stockholders and it passes, they can still do what they want.
Not anymore.
Oh, yes, we do.
Those board members have to be independent. You know
They're
that.
not, well, I know, and you know.
They have a fiduciary duty to the shareholders, not to the president of the company.
They do.
And if they break that fiduciary duty, they could go to jail.
And
some of them do.
And some of them should, and more of them should go to jail. But I don't believe, people say, well, that's the way they do it in the private sector. Well, just because they do it we ought to examine, is it fair? Shouldn't people who work all their lives, in this case, people who teach school, people who keep our neighborhood safe, shouldn't they, at the end of their careers, have retirement security? Should we have cops, 67 years old, chasing some felon down a dark
Maybe
alley
they
at
can
night. I
work-
don't think
they
we
can
should.
work in the office.
I
They
don't-
could- they could work in the office.
I don't think, no, because now they're moving you out in the streets. They don't
you
have enough cops.
Don't you have union employees who work for this union, AFSCME? Do you have people who stay and work until they're 67? Or does everybody retire
some
at
do,
55?
some do, some don't.
That's my point.
Well, so
why
not
should-
everybody. Well, not everybody who works for the state retires. There are people. There are people who work well beyond the normal retirement age who
Not
work
so
for the
much,
state.
not so
well,
much.
it is,
That's
well,
why
that's
that's
not
part
true.
of
The average person who retires from the state of Illinois today is 63 years old.
Okay, but what is your solution? Because you would agree, you said $83 billion unfunded. You would agree it's not a solvent system. You would agree,
Well,
maybe
it's
you would
not.
agree that currently for the the general revenue fund budget in the state of Illinois is about $33 billion.
Right.
$7.5 billion goes to retirees, either for health care benefits, either for pension payments, or for paying off bonds that they've
But-
incurred
right.
for the pensions. So that's almost 25%.
Well,
Where's the money going to come
Well, a
for
third. Well,
education?
first of all, you have to look. You have to separate.
Where's the money going to come for health care?
You have to separate
It's all
out.
going to retirees.
You have to separate out.
And this is what Rahm Emanuel said.
Well, he's wrong. Rahm Emanuel is wrong. I mean, he
This is
doesn't.
what Pat Quinn said.
Well, Pat Quinn is wrong. They don't represent working people. They're look at, Pat Quinn's been going
How
around
do you
the
get
state.
elected mayor? How do you get elected governor if you don't represent
Well,
working
they don't. I mean,
You supported Pat Quinn.
We did, because he was running against Bill Brady. But now he's doing what we supported him because of what Bill Brady said he would do. Now Pat Quinn is doing what Bill Brady said he would do.
And I asked Pat Quinn about that. I asked Governor Quinn. You know what Governor Quinn said?
Henry Vera has criticized you for taking the union's money, his union's money during the election, and he says, now you've changed your position, you've essentially adopted the position on pension reform of Bill Brady, your opponent. What do you say to Henry Vera about that?
Well, I don't agree with that. I think that I've followed my conscience, and I've always tried to do that, and I think that's the only way to go in life.
I said, Henry Bear says, you've changed your position. He kind of wants his money back because he said you took the money and you changed your position. He said he disagrees. He follows his conscience.
Well,
He's telling us that his conscience says
I don't-
he now thinks he can't have a stable pension system in Illinois unless he makes these changes.
I don't think that he has much of a conscience. To tell people who retired, who were made a promise, who have a constitutional guarantee of that promise, who on average are making $23,000 a year as a state as a retiree, that it's conscionable to cut their pensions after they retired on the basis of a promise that was made to them, to cut their health care after he told them, if you retire, you will have health care benefits subsidized by the state. To do that, to me, that's unconscionable that he's done that.
But what should Governor Quinn do?
What Governor Quinn should do, number one, is he should say, look, I made a big mistake last December. I came to Springfield and said I was anxious to sign a bill to give a $100 million tax break to the Chicago Mercantile Exchange because they only made $900 million last year. So I'm going to give them $100 million. And Sears, he said last December, we need to give them $10 million a year for the next 15 years, $150 million. And they pay their CEO $10 million a year. So in effect, the taxpayers of Illinois are paying some guy $10 million a year. And included in that, the CEO for Sears, if you saw the recent story in Crane's business, they pay over $700,000 a year to pay for charter flights for him to fly back and forth to Pennsylvania where his family lives. That's at taxpayer expense. He should tell those people, let me finish, no more tax breaks.
I'm not interrupting. I'm listening to you.
He should tell them no more tax breaks. Then he should say to the
I'm just reaching for my bat because I can think better with the bat in the hand. I'm not going to hit you.
Then he should say to the 2/3 of the corporations in this state that pay no taxes at all, look, the free ride is over. You guys want an educated workforce, you want good roads, you want a good infrastructure, fine, and I'm going to give that to you, but you're going to have to pay for it. You're not paying any corporate taxes now, you're going to have to pay corporate tax. And then he should say, and look, we're restricted here in Illinois. In almost every other state that has a state income tax, it's a progressive income tax. The income tax in Wisconsin, Indiana, and in Missouri all have progressivity to them. We don't have it here. And he should say we need to amend the Constitution and we need to have a progressive income tax so that rich people can pay their fair share. Because we have a tax
Can we go
system.
back and let's now it's my turn. Let me
Okay.
raise a few points about this.
ahead.
Because what you seem to be saying here is you can keep those pensions, you can keep the obligations, you can keep everything solvent. What you have to do sounds to me you're saying this, Henry, is you're saying you should raise the revenue coming into Illinois, you want to raise the state income tax, you want to raise the corporate for individuals, also for corporations, you want to make the
I
income
want to
tax
raise it on
more
rich
progressive.
people. I don't want to raise it on.
But you know the current code in the state of Illinois.
Well, it has to be changed. If
the
the governor had a
Constitution doesn't allow you to have a
if
progressive
the governor
income
had a
tax.
conscience, if he had a conscience, which I'm not sure he does, if he did, instead of saying, I'm anxious to have this bill to cut the taxes to the Chicago Mercantile Exchange, he would have stood up and said, look, we need to amend our Constitution. And I am putting the full weight of my office behind a constitutional amendment. I'm asking the General Assembly, I'm
It's
asking
too late.
Speaker Madigan.
It's too late.
It's not too late.
Not for
It's
this year. It can't be
too
on the
late.
ballot now.
No,
You know
but it can
that.
be for 2014.
What are we
and it
going to
should be.
do in 2012, though, for the next 2
well-
years? How are we going to solve this pension
Well,
problem?
the
They
pension.
say it gets $7 billion a year worse for each year you
No,
do
it
nothing.
doesn't. Well, that's not true. Well, first of all,
Senate President Cullerton,
if
Speaker
you let
Mike
me
Madigan?
you asked me a question.
Okay.
If you let me finish, the money is in the budget, and the governor's proposed budget has the money to make the pension payment this year. That's number one. Number two, I think it's important for you to understand that most of the money that's being paid into the pension fund this year is not the cost of the pension, the benefit that's being earned by the employees. It's the unfunded liability, which they didn't pay in the past. I'll give you a perfect example right here in Illinois. The Illinois Municipal Retirement Fund, which covers all of local government outside of Chicago and Cook County. They have a benefit structure which is very similar to the state benefit structure. The employees of those employers, like the city of Springfield here or the city of Evanston or Peoria, any place, the employees pay about the same as what state employees pay into it. That pension fund is pretty much 100% funded. And why is that the case? That's the case because the law requires those municipalities and counties that participate to make their payments just the way the employees do every month. But the state doesn't. And I should add, all of the legislation, the governor hasn't performed. The governor, you look at the governor's bill, what he's proposed, he has not proposed going forward that the state would be required to make its payment. The bill they
He says
passed.
they can't. He says they can't.
Well,
because he wants to take care of, he says more people need to be better educated.
Well-
You've listened to the governor. He says preschool is important. He said right now, this year, you're cutting back on things.
No, he's cutting back.
He's
No,
cutting back
he's
because he
cutting
had
back.
to make a
No, no.
$7.5 million, $7.5 billion
No, he's
contribution
cutting back
to
to-
retirees of the state of Illinois.
No.
This is
He's-
what Governor Quinn
well,
said.
that's what
I
he
didn't
says.
say this.
Well,
I
Governor
didn't.
Quinn is wrong.
Senate President Cullerton would say
Well,
this.
if Cullerton-
Speaker Mike
then
Madigan.
they're all wrong.
All Democrats.
No, well, they're
the
all-
Republican leaders. Redonio,
they're all-
Cross. You're saying everybody's wrong.
Well, I'm saying they're wrong. I do not believe that they
All
should
the
cut
leaders, Democrat and Republican, are wrong, you're saying.
on this issue. Absolutely.
You
On this
remember
issue-
Obama. We talked about him before the show. Ran for the U.S. Senate, okay? Won for the U.S. Senate. You gave out books, Audacity of Hope, to your staffers. You said, this guy might be president, okay? You respect Barack Obama, right?
I sure do.
You respected him then, you respect him now. 3.5 years as president. What's Barack Obama saying? Is Barack Obama calling on Rahm Emanuel and say, you're doing the wrong thing, you should do the right thing and do what Henry Bear says?
I'm not privy to the conversation.
I don't think he's doing that because
two.
you know Rahm was his White House chief of staff. So Obama's half responsible for why why Rahm Emanuel became mayor. You know that. He didn't endorse him officially, but he let him run these nice ads that showed Barack Obama saying very nice things about Rahm Emanuel. And at that time, Rahm Emanuel was saying, you know, we're going to have to make adjustments. He didn't deceive the people. He said we're going to have to make adjustments on pensions for city employees. And Barack Obama did not bat him down. This is a man you know and respect, President of the United States, Barack Obama. Is he wrong too?
Well, I don't agree with him on everything. I certainly don't agree with the president on his assessment of Rahm Emanuel. I don't think Rahm Emanuel has been a good mayor.
But the reality, okay, let's go to reality. We only have maybe 10 minutes left. We've laid out the problem. You've helped lay out the problem. $83 billion in unfunded liabilities. Quinn says, look, you can't run a government this way. We want to spend more money on education. We want to help low-income people who need more money in education, not less. He said, people who need Medicaid, he's having to cut Medicaid anyway. He said, if I don't do this, I'd have to cut it so much more. So these are people, he says, I think he's saying this, and I'm not quoting him verbatim, but we're weighing who can we help. We help low-income people who need educational assistance, who need health care, and then we've got state employees who have pensions, and we're saying just adjust them going forward, prospectively going forward.
No, but that's not his proposal. His proposal.
That's what Quinn says.
No, well, that's what he says. It's not true. Okay, it is not true. He wants the.
That's what Ty Fainer says.
Well, it's not true.
Civic committee, the Civic Committee of the Commercial Club of Chicago.
Well,
and
what
you know,
they're-
Bill Daley is a part of that.
well-
Republicans and Democrats, well-respected
Right.
business leaders. The same thing in the Civic
Well, I
Federation.
don't. Maybe you respect. I have no respect.
You don't
for that.
respect Bill Daley?
No, I do. No, I do not respect business leaders.
he's a part of the Civic
I do
Committee.
not respect business leaders who want cops and firefighters and teachers to take cuts in their pay and their benefits, while at the same time they don't pay their fair share of taxes, where they make literally millions of dollars a year. Miles White, let me give you an example. Miles White from the Civic Committee of the Commercial Club. He says, we got to get rid of defined pension benefits. You know, he has a defined pension benefit whose cash value is over $20 million. You know how long it would take a state employee or a teacher to accumulate $20 million? And what does this guy do? He lives off the taxpayers.
The $20
He
million,
doesn't-
$20 million wouldn't solve anything.
Well, that's
of
one
the
guy.
$83 billion.
That's one guy.
And there aren't that many guys that
There's
have
one
it
guy.
making
You
that
go.
kind of
You go
money.
down through
There
the
aren't
list.
many guys that have it making
You go
that kind
down
of
through
money.
the list of the Civic Committee and the amount of money they make, and that they're not paying taxes. They're paying a smaller percentage of their income on state taxes than the average citizen is. If you look at the tax
No,
structure
that's
in the
not
state,
true. That's
it is
not
state.
true.
It is true. It's
not true.
absolutely
There
true.
are some people who earn their money mainly on capital gains.
It-
We have a lower tax rate for capital gains than we do for income.
Well-
But their money is taxed before it becomes capital gains as ordinary income. It's a double tax.
No,
When
it's
you
not a
include,
double.
no,
Well, you know
before
what?
you can get the capital gain, you've got to earn the money, don't you?
You know, look, I see you got a book here from Milton Friedman.
Would you like
And I
it?
said-
I'm going to give it to you.
No, I
Capitalism
wouldn't
and
like
Freedom.
it. Because-
Just read it. No, take it and read it.
Look,
I'll
I know
take
it.
any book you
Look,
give me.
Look,
Henry, any
I know,
book you
look,
give me after the
you and
show,
Milton
I will
Friedman-
take it and read it. Will
You
you
look.
read this too?
you and Milton Friedman, I'd be glad to read Milton.
There
Friedman.
you go.
You and Milton
Capitalism and
Friedman-
Freedom
you
comes
and-
to you courtesy of the Heartland Institute.
You and Milton Friedman have a view of the world that totally out of sync.
I'm a
with mine.
journalist.
No, you're not a journalist.
I'm not.
You have a point of view.
No,
that
I'm
you're
talking
pushing.
about Rahm Emanuel's
you're-
point of view. I'm
No,
talking
you're
about
talking about your
Clotis's point of view. Maddie,
You're talking about you're defending.
These are all these people.
You're
Go on,
defending.
say,
You're
how do you
defending.
deal
No,
with it?
you're doing the same thing that they're doing. That's why I criticize them, because they defend rich people.
I'm
I
not
think Curry.
defending
You
them.
are. No,
this
you're
is their
saying.
point of
No,
view.
that's your point of view.
How do you deal with it?
I'm telling you how you deal with it. You
Okay.
say, look, we have to have fair taxes. We have to be fair to
You want to
everybody.
raise the income tax rate.
No,
and
no,
you want
no.
to raise the corporate tax
That's
rate.
what you said. I didn't say that.
You want progressive taxes.
I want progressive
You want to
taxes.
raise
I
taxes
want-
on corporations, and you want to raise taxes on wealthy people. Is that
I
right?
want to close loopholes.
But how do you stop people from leaving? How do you stop corporations from going to
Well,
other
you know,
states?
it's funny you say that, because, you know, if...
Don't you think they do that if you raise
well, let
taxes
me
on
ask you a question. Yeah, they'll do it because, you know...
And then the
they'll leave
employees won't
they'll
have
leave-
jobs.
They'll leave the country. Look, they've already left. Look at Caterpillar. They
You
were,
can't have employees without employers. Forrest Claypool, well-known Democrat, says that. You know Forrest. You respect Forrest? You can't
no,
have
I don't.
employees
Look, you can't,
without
look,
employers.
but look, employers are not in business to employ people. Employers are in business to make a buck, right? They want to make a profit. And if they can make a profit without any employees, they'll do it. If they wait, let me finish.
Yes, sir.
If they can make a profit by moving a company to Bangladesh and paying people starvation wages, they'll do it. They're not, they're not in the business of of saying, oh, gee, we just want to
But they
employ
do
people.
employ
No,
people.
well, if they
Target
can make a
employs
buck on
people.
it, if they can make a buck,
The
more-
major companies in this country
look,
that buy goods overseas employ many people in the United States. You're trying to unionize
but
these
they-
people.
they-
or not ask me. Your counterparts are trying to unionize those people.
all these companies that have moved offshore, why have they done it? Because they cared about their employees? They don't care a whit about their employees. They'll move out in a minute if they can make a nickel more in Bangladesh or Mexico or any place else in the world. That's what
unless
they're
they can
about.
provide a product that people want, including
Well-
your employees, including your
No,
members.
no.
Unless they can do that, they're out of business. They're competing with companies in
Well-
Bangladesh. They're competing with companies in Germany. So
Yeah.
if people
But
have
they're not
lower
competing-
taxes,
right.
if people have
What
lower
isn't
taxes in
tax-
lower
we-
other states,
we need-
other countries, they'll go out of business,
Well,
and then and the government won't have money, and the government employees will have to leave their jobs. So the private sector,
No, the
government sector, nobody's immune from the free market. You understand that?
Oh, yes, yeah, no, Miles White, he's immune from the free market.
No, it catches
doesn't-
up with him,
No,
too.
they couldn't find someone who would work for
No.
13 million. They have to pay someone
Anybody
23 million.
anybody's
Look,
getting more than they're worth, the market
the
catches
rich-
up with them.
That's not
Milton
true.
Friedman.
That's not true. That's what Milton Friedman said. If you
greatest
look at the
economist of the
reality,
20th
you
century.
think that these guys, these bankers on Wall Street who tank this economy, who make millions of dollars a year, that the free market caught up with them? The free market will
Daley-
never
Bill
catch
Daley
up.
supported
The
NAFTA.
free market
Did Bill
will.
Daley support
the free
NAFTA?
I'm not talking about NAFTA. You're changing the subject.
Well,
These
I'm just
guys,
giving you an example.
these
He
guys
had to
are
support it.
immune to the market. They, no matter. Look at Goldman Sachs. Look at all these bankers that drove the economy. Now they're getting their money right back. They're getting 15, 20 million bucks a year, and you think that's good. I think
no.
it's bad.
I'm
No,
a
you think it's
journalist.
good. No,
I'm a
you're not a
journalist.
journalist.
I am a
You
journalist.
you think it's
You're
good.
on the left, I'm asking questions
No,
from the right.
you
I got
think-
somebody on the right, I'll ask questions from the left.
You think it's
Get
good.
somebody from the right here, and I'll show you.
I don't think it's good that a guy like Miles White can make $25 million a year while teachers and firefighters and cops are having their pensions cut. I don't think that this is what this country is about. I believe a time if someone worked for a company that they made a living wage, they could afford a home, they could afford a car, maybe a vacation once in a while, maybe even educate their kids. Now more and more those jobs are disappearing because a lot of greedy corporations decided, well, even though we can make a buck here, we can make a few more bucks in Mexico or Bangladesh or somewhere else. And now what we have is a lot of people who are working very hard, not making very much money, so they're not paying very much taxes.
If you don't raise the employee contribution, if you don't raise the retirement age, if you don't reduce the COLAs, if you don't do cost shifting back to these local governments, and all you do is say in 2 years you'll have a constitutional amendment that will allow you to have if you pass it, allow you to have a progressive tax code, allow you to generate more revenue, allow you to close the loopholes for corporations. Over the next 2 years, do you do anything? And over the next 9 days, can you do anything to solve this problem?
Okay, that's, we are in fact in discussions with the legislative leaders and representatives of the governor, trying to seek a solution that we believe is constitutional and fair to our members. We have been meeting with them over a period of several weeks. We continue to meet with them. The governor's plan is a total overreach as far as we are concerned. We understand that even though we did not create this problem, that again, our members, every paycheck, pay a portion of their salary into the pension fund, that the problem was created by the politicians who failed to do that. We don't want the pension funds to go bankrupt, and that's why we are seeking a solution. Can it be done in 9 days? I don't know if it can be done. Maybe it could be done in 9 days, but we are committed to trying to seek a solution that is fair.
I very much want to thank our guest, Henry Bair, Executive Director of AFSCME, the American Federation of State, County, Municipal Employees, the major public sector union in the state of Illinois, and perhaps throughout the country. Would you say that, Henry?
Well, we are the largest
Okay.
public sector.
And you're a good sport for coming here, and you've answered some tough questions.
I certainly hope they won't vote for any pension bill that doesn't guarantee, whatever the pension benefit level may be in that bill, that the state will be required to make their payments going forward. That's how we got into this mess. That the reason that the Illinois Municipal Retirement Fund doesn't have this problem is because those local governments have to make the payments, and I think we need to keep the politicians on a tight leash, and there has to be an absolute guarantee that those payments are going to be made, whatever the level, whatever it might require for funding, that they have to be made.
Thank you so much, Henry Bair.
Thank you.